turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is the only reality.
So welcome back everyone. I'm here with my good friend Chris from NAMZ. Just had an amazing interview with this, I'll call him a serial entrepreneur. What he's doing in back here, future of food, but also outside the body, looking at resources and how to better allocate them. We just had a great discussion about how you approach the business, how you look at disruption, how you build your team, and how you try to scale to where you become the real market leader, the market disruptor, and everyone follows your standard. Thank you very much for your time. Do you care to give me a little bit of your background, just a personal introduction?
My name is Christoph Langwallner. I'm the co-founder of a company called NAMZ. We are a bioscience-based organization that looks into disruptive technologies for what we call the outside and inside of the body in a sustainable manner.
And what's the core idea, and what is the disruption you're hoping to bring to the market?
The core idea was to basically say, look, there are big companies out there who try to come up with sustainable approaches with regards to what we call the inside and the outside of the body. That means personal care products as well as food and beverages. However, doing something different in a multinational is almost impossible or very, very slow moving. So we decided to basically say, let's take an opportunity to step outside of such an environment and let's look into opportunities with an unmet need wherein you can actually say, if we could resolve it, if that would happen, what if we can resolve it, what would happen? How could we actually impact? And what we did is we tried hard for about a year, 9 months, to come up with 15 ideas, and we launched the company. We actually took 12 ideas into the lab, trying to say, okay, so how do we approach this? Yeah. What is it that we have to do or can do with regards to technological advances and sciences, applied sciences in particular, in order to fulfill or meet these unmet needs, particularly on a consumer basis. And that within the purview of being sustainable.
What are the issues that you're dealing with? What are the scarce resources that you're the most concerned with?
We are living in a world where we all know that by 2050 we're going to be 9.68 billion people, depending on which reference points you are trusting more. We are going to be that many people, and we have to increase the production capacity by about 70%. Now, if we have to do that, the approaches that we had in the last century are not available to us anymore. They were luxurious because we could actually take a forest down and just increase acreage in order to increase production. That to us is not available anymore, particularly in the context of food security, water security, and energy security.
You mentioned that you start off with 15 ideas, you brought 12 into the lab. Generically, without getting too technical about your secret sauce here, what's the process that you took to go from 12 to the 1 or 2 that you knew had the most potential, that technically you could deliver to the market, that you could get your big Z, which is your scale?
It took us 4 years to be able to communicate that. I think what it really runs down to is our strategic pillars that we call Aspire, Discover, Translate, and Size. In order to be able to filter something, to apply a filter of ideas, bringing them forward and getting them from, okay, I have an idea, then you try out an approach, then you have probably a discovery, you identify something new or even invention, but that may or may not have any, great economic value at the end of the day. So we were really trying hard at the beginning of each and every single project to ask tough questions, what if? And also allow yourself at the beginning of a project, even before you go into the lab, to dream about a different future. Travel in your mind, we call it aspire, dream. Travel into that future and say, so if our technology truly can make markets, meaning disrupt the market, how does that future then look like? How would the industry behave differently? And what is our role then? And I think that is one key aspect of it. Then we take it forward into what we call the discovery phase, whereby we say, let us talk to consumer. When we started off, we talked a lot to industries and industry players, but we very quickly figured out and we learned that talking to individual brands, you get a very, very biased view. the biased view from an angle, from a view of the brand and how the brand of that particular potential customer views the world. That may be consistent with a larger need within the consumers, but in many cases it isn't. Okay. It is very, very tainted in a way. So we do a lot of that work to start with. We are working together with recognized people in the industry. We have people in-house who are doing consumer insights. And then we take it into the lab and say, so if that is a true unmet need, what can we do in order to help a process, a new way of doing things to come about in order to really be able to disrupt. This discovery process and the aspirational angle to it may take years. And once we hopefully win and say that there is something that we can take forward, we then look into, can we carve this out? Can we create a subsidiary company? Can we equip that subsidiary company with different skills? People that actually are good in translating science into hardcore processes, factories, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, scale it up from there and go on the market and succeed.
What does scale look like for you? How do you define success of a product or an innovation that you bring out of this lab? What's your big goal?
I think the moment we wake up in the morning, we come to work because we would like to be experienced 1 billion times. We are on the path to be experienced 2.6 billion times a year, which is great. So now we can actually drill down and say, can we replicate what we have done with this first partner to be able to be experienced 1 billion times in a quarter, in a month, and so on and so forth. So that's behind that aspirational aspect of being experienced 1 billion times. If I would look into more of the financial aspect of it, I would say, well, let's try to analyze as to what's the minimum size required in order to actually make markets, so that your technology finally becomes the norm, the standard, the status quo at one point in time, so that you have the technology, the go-to technology, and how can you leverage from there. So that would be more the aggressive business aspect of it.
For you, what's that number? How much of the market do you need to own before you're having that impact that you want?
If you look at the entire life cycle of a business, would be about 30% of a market. Wow. Whether or not we ever get there, yeah, who knows? Sure. But unless and until you aim high, how can you get there in the first place?
Between achieving 30% and today still in the lab, how do you keep yourself kind of mindful that that's your goal, but then keep everyone really moving on a day-to-day basis through that grind?
I don't think it is me. I think actually it's the folks around me, because what we have done here in this business is we have set out the company and how it functions like a system. I keep on telling to everyone, I'm not the CEO, the project is the CEO. Mm-hmm. If the project needs a particular CEO because the CEO has a particular skill set or experience, so be it, take over, run with it. And that helps you tiptoeing on each other, that helps you being focused, that helps you staying alert, and that helps you having your big goal in eyesight. So I would not do justice to what we stand for if I would say it is me. No, it is not me at all. I'm just one of many here who are really driving this project.
When you're going through this process, you hit a challenge, you know that on the other side there's something amazing. How do you get yourself through that challenge? Like, you can't get the experiment to work, you can't get the team to kind of buy into your idea. What's a process for you to get through a challenge that you know is worth getting through?
I never find it difficult to be self-motivated. An experiment, a failed experiment, is just a data point. It's just one learning. It's just saying, okay, this approach didn't work, let's try the next one.
Do you have a support network outside of this, be it investors, advisors, friends, family, things like that, that you're able to call on when you have a question that can't be answered by yourself or by the family in the company here?
Yeah, yes, we do have. We are fortunate to have what we call the 3 Fs behind us. We refer to them as the family, the friends, and the fools. This is a support network that we have that the function as sparring partners, bouncing balls, the function as counselors, the function as advisors. They are here to ask the difficult questions. They are here to ask those questions that we haven't asked yet. I don't think any single person, any single company in its own right can be successful unless and until you build this ecosystem around you. And the ecosystem includes not only the 3 Fs, as I've explained, but also the partners that work with you on saying, hey, I really have an appetite to translate my business.
If you were going to be advising the 25-year-old Chris who's entering the market, food entrepreneurship, what advice would you give him to just take it to the next level?
The 25-year-old Chris. I think the 25-year-old Chris didn't have a problem of taking risk. That was always the sort of aspect of mine that I probably scared a lot of my family members on the way. But I honestly think as an entrepreneur, I've done an MBA throughout my career, and what you learn doing an entrepreneur is that you can quantify risk, or you think you can quantify risk. Therefore, if you think you can quantify risk, you become more risk adverse than you should be as an entrepreneur. So at the end of the day, 25-year-old Chris, I would say take the risk and make mistakes, learn from them, implement a better of yourself, and don't believe you have wisdom. It is a collaborative approach that brings people forward. It's not a single person. You can have an idea, but unless and until somebody else picks it up, like in football, in soccer, right? Unless you can have the ball all 90 minutes without scoring a goal, but if you have a team that helps you out, you probably win the match. And the same is with a company. You really have to think like that. I think that's what's really, really important. Of course, then there become the more tangible aspects of being an entrepreneur. A crucial aspect of being an entrepreneur is always making sure that you're not running out of cash. The best idea can become meaningless the moment, the best idea, the best business proposition, can be meaningless the moment you run out of cash. If you're lucky, somebody else takes over, but then you're not enjoying the fruits from your hard labor that you've put in. So cash management is of utmost importance. Always make sure that you're not running out of it. And I've learned in my past that, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is the only reality. Yeah. And that holds true for that sort of entrepreneurship. Yeah, I think these are the core aspects of really being daring to go out. Daring to go out, and if you start something with friends, make sure you ask the right questions. Make sure that you have an honest approach to things, because actually I didn't tell you, but my very, very first entrepreneurial exposure was with 2 other friends, and we failed because we didn't ask the right questions. So we only burned cash. Yeah. So, but anyway, that's life. That's what it comes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of the most valuable lessons I ever learned was actually through a crisis of cash flow management.
Yes.
Yes. I'm a completely organic entrepreneur. Everything is about how much I can sell, how much I can profit, how much I can reinvest. In that vein, you've taken on external funding. You also put all your own in. What's the balance for you, organic versus investment?
I don't think that we have a formula 90-10, 10-90, 80-20, or whatever it might be. I think our formula is that we would like to work only with what we call strategic partners, money that is of strategic importance. We at this point in time are not on the capital market that seeks venture capital funds, neither private equity funds. Because that particular industry is not really yet geared up to support an agri-food kind of setup, particularly in this part of the world. Maybe in other parts of the world, I don't know the ecosystem that well in California and places like this. Probably there is money that is better suited for that sort of industry. But here, it isn't. So you don't want to go into a spiral where getting a license, a factory license, takes you probably 9 months. and then you have a fund in you who wants to sell you in like 12 months. It just doesn't work. There's a misalignment of what the cash wants to do and what the business aspects are. So I think the expectations with regards to the cash management and what the cash ought to do for the business has to be considered very, very smartly. And if that is aligned, then it's a matter not so much about who owns what stake, but what's the value that we can generate. Because it could be something, could be very, very small but hugely big in terms of return. It could be a very, very small owner but hugely return on something that's greater, right? So the recipe as of now for us is work with strategic partners. You can call it smart money, but in the true sense that it has to have a strategic impact on your business. So just bringing in money for the sake of bringing in money ends up with managing balance sheets and P&Ls, and it doesn't really help you on the project.